Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of our F1 25 career mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we are headed to the streets of Jeddah here for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix as we continue to be smack dab in the middle of the R&D order as we continue to wait on some upgrades coming relatively soon. And speaking of upgrades, McLaren have brought a pretty substantial upgrade this weekend, looking like they are going to be maybe the team to beat again, as we are coming off of our first non-points finish this season in Bahrain last episode, just short of scoring a point there as we struggled all weekend long. Of course, qualifying pace has been a struggle for us this season. I think that this weekend that could change a little bit because Jeddah, of course, is more of a high-speed focused track, and that's where this car really does benefit, is in the straight line. So I do think we're in for a pretty competitive weekend here as we hit the racetrack now. And with my, of course, graphics settings, I was really struggling for some reason with frame rates here on the absolute maximum in Jeddah, and specifically the daytime. So you're going to notice it in practice, but then qualifying in like the race when it gets dark, it was actually fine. So, but overall was pretty happy with the pace of the car, and hopeful that this is going to be one of those weekends where we can put this Connor Sport machine into the top 10 in qualifying, and then as well go into the race and have a good result as well. It has been an interesting season with the likes of Ferrari and McLaren appearing to be the top two teams, but we know Aston Martin has some speed, but didn't really show up very well last episode between both Stroll and Verstappen. But as well, I mean, Mercedes showing a little bit of light, same as Williams, and Connor Sport as a whole as well. Red Bull's kind of been all over the place with their new lineup of Franco Colapinto coming over, as well as Yuki Tsunoda. So we are in for a really interesting season as this 24 race calendar continues to progress early on, as we were actually top of the board here in FP1. Of course, practice means absolutely nothing for how your weekend is truly going to go in this game. Now, as you can see, Colapinto all the way at the bottom of the grid, and he's actually on soft, so not quite sure what went wrong there, but we come through into Friday evening here, ready to hit the track for some qualifying and some, like I said, higher expectations compared to some recent races, like just most recently Bahrain itself, because of the high speed factor of this track. I do believe we are going to have enough speed to get this Connor Sport, I mean, at the bare minimum into Q2, and I think we could as well fight for Q3 as we are going to launch onto the racetrack now. And we're going to come straight through to the end of my first lap in Q1, and Aiden Jackson was well up the order, so that was pretty promising for me. As we head down this front straightaway, open the rear wing, use up the battery to the line. It's P12, which would be enough, as we would end up 14th at the end of Q1, and I knew I had some more time in it, so there was some confidence. But look at this, Red Bull, Tsunoda out, and Aston Martin of Stroll out, as well as the Audi of Hulkenberg, the pair of V-Carb Fords as well, as we come through into Q2 immediately now. And Jackson only 15th after being in the top 10 very comfortably in Q1, and he was not really improving based up, well, I'd say he's not improving, he hasn't really gone back out on track yet to make his second lap attempt. But as we round the final turn down the front straightaway, we set a pretty competitive lap overall as we open up the rear wing to the line, and it's going to be P7. And just like that, we've gotten ourselves into Q3 and P9, and Jackson does not improve. Down in 15th position, we've got Kimi Antonelli out, as well as Charles Leclerc out as Ferraris. We always seem to find a Ferrari struggling every weekend it comes into this career mode, as we jump into now Q3, and we have done what we thought we could do, and that was make Q3. I was confident we could pull it off, and we did. So we come through into Q3, making our lap here, and really pushing as hard as I can at this point, hoping that we can find some speed. Colapinto as well up here in the top 10 as well, so putting up a good effort for him as we continue to fight this car around this tight, sweeping, high-speed circuit now right against the barriers as we head down into the final turn of purple sector 2, but a lock up into turn 3. That's going to cost us at least a couple of tenths of a second as we come through to open up the rear wing one more time to the line, and it's only going to be P9 in front of Colapinto. And will that even stick at the end of qualifying? The answer is yes. Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris will lock out the front row over Max Verstappen. How about Mercedes putting George Russell in the top 5, Williams with Sainz, Hamilton the lone Ferrari in the top 10, and Esteban Ocon the Haas, who continues to qualify strong, and P8 as we head to the grid Saturday night.
Good morning, good afternoon, or for us, good evening, as we're under the night lights of Jeddah. The floodlights are on and so is the pressure here at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah street circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Oscar Piastri lines up on pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Verstappen, Russell, Carlos Sainz, and Hamilton, Albon, Ocon, Golden Boy, and Franco Colapinto, Leclerc, Bortoletto, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, and Behrman, Jackson, Gasly, Lance Stroll, and Nico Hülkenberg. Aaron, Hadja, Doohan, and Yuki Tsunoda rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
We saw a grid penalty there for Yuki Tsunoda as we are ready to roll for a one-stop strategy. Tonight we're going to be starting on the mediums, moving on to the hards in the final half of this race here, as very interested, excited for the potential of this race, because I feel like we've got some serious speed that we might actually be able to show here this weekend. The big story is, can our teammate Aiden Jackson work his way forward here as we're going to kick off this formation lap now, as it's going to be the pair of McLarens out in front. Max Verstappen there still trying to go 5 or 6 consecutive world championships. Of course, it is very well possible. I do believe he can go 6 consecutive, but of course he's going to have to pick it up just a little bit. Last episode in Bahrain, we kind of saw the Aston Martin kind of fade a little bit, and will we see the same thing tonight here in Jeddah? I think that's a big question, as we know Stroll's already struggling for some qualifying pace. So if you're Aston Martin, you know, you got Max Verstappen on the team, you've got Adrian Newey there designing your car, and it's clearly made some big improvements. You really got to get Lance Stroll out of that team and get someone that can go alongside Verstappen and also score points just like he's doing, as I feel like Aston Martin is kind of, you know, with Verstappen having to deal with Stroll as a teammate, it's a bit of wasted potential for that team as a whole as we line up to the grid. Franco Colapinto in that Red Bull Ford partnership that just kicked off this season, and then Yuki Tsunoda lining up the back of the grid. Here we go for 25 laps here for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Under the lights, Saturday night racing's underway here from Jeddah, and it's a McLaren front row lockout. It's a poor start for Norris, you can see from here as we dive up the inside nearly into the back of the Williams of Albon. Piastri's clear, it's 3 wide for second position. Verstappen right, Russell middle, Norris left. Who's gonna back out? It's gonna be shockingly Max Verstappen, as now Norris settles in to the second position, and it's gonna be Russell. Verstappen tanks lap Hamilton there in front of us. What a save there from the 7-time champ as he continues on wheel to wheel, not lifting now. Who's got more balls? It's Lewis Hamilton. He gets in front of Carlos Sainz as we'll have to settle in behind the Williams. What a start here from Jeddah under the lights. Saturday night racing can't get any better than this as we head down into the long sweeping hairpin there behind Sainz, the Spaniard in the Williams. He's got me in a Williams sandwich with Alex Albon just behind. Esteban Ocon dropped down to P9 on this opening lap as we start lap 2, DRS enabled, and Carlos Sainz without DRS is bringing the fight around the outside of Lewis Hamilton here as they go wheel to wheel, side by side through 1 and 2. Hamilton's not going to give it up easily. We know the Ferraris have got some speed, and Hamilton starts to open up the gap, but now with DRS, Hamilton's got no DRS currently. I don't think he might just have a little bit of it actually. I think he might have been within range of Verstappen, who's down in 4th position. But for Oscar Piastri, absolutely brilliant start off the grid from him. It helped that Lando Norris had a pretty big fumble. Piastri's had some rough luck so far this season, a couple of mechanical failures, and he is looking to rebound again with another win here tonight. Of course, in Bahrain, he was on fire. He was able to pick up that win after following a mechanical failure the race before, and he's looking to go back-to-back here tonight, and he is in good shape to do do so now as Sainz has run down Verstappen. Hamilton has passed both Sainz and Max Verstappen as we start lap 4, and Verstappen is fading. And we saw the similar thing in Bahrain, and it's just that Aston Martin, with Verstappen specifically, has got great qualifying pace, but the race pace is not quite there, and he's starting to tumble down the order here. And we come to lap 5, and same situation, Sainz kind of just chilling behind the Aston Martin. A few car lengths in between the two drivers as George Russell is keeping Lando Norris very honest for the second position, as you can see on the track map. A great step up for Russell and Mercedes here this weekend now, as you can see, still side-by-side battles here. Carlos Sainz not willing to give this one up now, as Verstappen, same situation. He's not willing to give it up, and now I'm going to get a good run on both drivers on the run into turn number 1. Verstappen's got no DRS. We're able to go up the right side, and we're going to have the inside line into turn number 2, and we're going to wash out a little bit, open up the wheel, leave just enough room, but Verstappen, we clear him, and a lap later, we're going to run down Sainz and pass him into turn 1. Verstappen's also lost another position to Charles Leclerc, so Verstappen's dropped down into the 8th position as Leclerc, who missed Q3, is starting to work his way forward. He has passed a lot of cars, including now Carlos Sainz, so now I am next in line to get passed by the Ferrari, unfortunately, and I already know I'm not really going to have much to fight Leclerc with as we continue on. And just a few moments after we start lap 8, you're going to see here comes Leclerc, and I've got absolutely nothing for him. He is absolutely flying. I decided, you know, that's an inevitable battle. Let's just let him have it, and we'll continue on and try to follow him with the DRS as well, as that will as well allow me to hold off, hopefully, Carlos Sainz. But unfortunately for me, Leclerc actually drives out of my DRS range here over the next lap or so. So, not ideal, as he is going to try and run down Lewis Hamilton as well. The Ferrari's looking strong, but not quite as strong as the McLarens. Now, to my surprise, I was actually able to get back in the DRS range of Leclerc, so that would allow me to start to rely on him. And as well, what helped me was Max Verstappen had actually gotten back to Sainz and started fighting him. So now they're all in a DRS fight, and they're stacking each other up every time they do that, which is opening up the gap between myself and those guys. And we had very quickly, by lap 12, had continued to follow Leclerc in the DRS and had opened up the gap to this Verstappen and Carlos Sainz battle to a good 5 seconds. So we pretty well have, unless something like a safety car comes out, have put ourselves in really good shape here for the rest of this race, as we're going to pit here on lap 12 behind Leclerc into the pit's 50-mile-per-hour pit limit as we roll slowly. There's Lando Norris in. He's trying to undercut his teammate of Oscar Piastri as we will head into our pit box now as well, looking for a mid 2-second stop. It's going to be, hold on, waiting, hards on. There goes Leclerc. We'll follow him out. It was just over 2 seconds it was, as we'll follow the Monegasque here in the Ferrari. We're going to be right here against Lance Stroll as we're going to exit just in front of his Aston Martin. Thank you very much now, as we'll continue on to continue this fight here today, and hoping that we can stay within the DRS range of Leclerc. But if we can't, it's not the end of the world, because we're undercutting some drivers in front of us like Hamilton, and as well as I believe George Russell is still on the racetrack. So that's going to help us as well as we continue on. And here comes Lewis Hamilton exiting the pits now on lap 14. He's going to be right here alongside me. It's going to be super close, but he's going to have to run off. He's going to be able to stay in front, but we're in very much the DRS of him. And Leclerc, unfortunately, did very much drive out of my DRS range, as right now, George Russell, through the pit cycle, has gotten himself into second position over Norris and Leclerc. So if Norris is going to go try to run down his teammate of Oscar Piastri here tonight, he is going to have to go through George Russell first, but I just don't think he's got the pace. It seems like Piastri's got this thing under control. But, I mean, if you look at the track map, he hasn't really driven away from everybody. He's got a comfortable lead, but he's not gone. So it's interesting that he's just kind of dominated this race at a really low capacity of just kind of keeping everyone behind him still, you know, in kind of a striking distance if something goes wrong or if he makes a slight mistake and whatnot, as we continue to 10 laps to go. And it's been a pretty lackluster Grand Prix. I mean, the start was wild. Things calmed down quite a bit after the first few laps, and Aston Martin and Max Verstappen have continued to fall down the order, as we've actually got a run on Lewis Hamilton, a very unexpected run. I was content with riding behind him because he's faster overall, but we just got such a strong run, we had to go for it. Now we're side by side out of the final turn with 7 time, and we'll open up the rear wing again with the battery as well on overtake, and we'll be able to clear Hamilton and move ourselves back up into the top 5, having a great race tonight, a great bounce back from what we just had in Bahrain, where we finish outside of the points, and we've been finishing like 5th or 6th area for the majority of the start of the season so far, as now actually our teammate Aiden Jackson with a mechanical failure, engine gone on our teammate in the Connor Sport, and that is going to really now start to make me wonder how our situation is going to go to the end of this Grand Prix, as the virtual safety car is going to be deployed due to that engine failure. Jackson has just not been having the start to the season he would like. Qualifying issues, race pace issues, he's really struggled to get through traffic compared to myself as we would return to racing here on lap 19, and yeah, really just not the season Aiden Jackson's looking for. I mean, you look at, of course, our rookie seasons together, we did eventually beat him in the points, but I mean, there was times throughout that season where he was just showing me up, and now here we are, and it's just really not been a lot of speed out of Aiden Jackson so far in his sophomore season, as we continue to 5 laps to go, and here comes Lewis Hamilton, or 6 laps to go. He actually gets up my inside into turn 1, but we are both running down Russell and Leclerc. So Norris has gotten through on George Russell, and so is Leclerc. Russell starting to fade in the closing laps of this race, but they're fighting, and that's what's allowed myself and Lewis Hamilton to get a lot closer within a couple of seconds now of those two drivers. And as we come to lap 22, Russell is now losing contact with Charles Leclerc and dropping back to Hamilton and myself. So in these final few laps of racing, there's a chance we could maybe get George Russell to get ourselves back into the top 5, because I really don't want to finish 6th for I think the 3rd time in like 4 or 5 races, as we continue on here to these final few laps now, and Oscar Piastri is in complete control. Norris is trying to get there, but I just don't think it's going to happen. 3 laps to go here under the lights in Jeddah. Franco Colapinto up into P7 over Carlos Sainz and the Williams, and Max Verstappen as well down the order. He's trying to just get a top 10 out of this now. As you can see, Hamilton passes George Russell as we approach 2 laps to go here now from Saudi Arabia, as we continue to close in on Russell ourselves into turn 1, lap 24 of 25, and we're within a car length of striking of George Russell. We're going to have to wait for, of course, a DRS opportunity and hope that Hamilton drives away from Russell, as Hamilton's going to try and take off. Leclerc's starting to struggle as well, so Hamilton could maybe have a chance to go get his Ferrari teammate here before this race comes to a close, as we hop up over the sausage curb, and that's going to absolutely destroy our chances of passing Russell. It sends the car straight, and we pay the price and drop nearly 2 seconds back, as we have now another mechanical failure. That's Esteban Ocon, who's out after qualifying inside the top 10, as we come straight to the final lap of racing, and we have now dropped off 3 seconds to Russell and Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton has run down his teammate of Charles Leclerc, but it's all Oscar Piastri here tonight under the lights here from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Nobody has anything for the Australian. A mechanical failure a few races ago, and he goes and wins in Bahrain to back it up, and he's going to go back to back here tonight, because out of the final turn, down the front straightaway, a 4-second gap, Oscar Piastri wins in Saudi Arabia over Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc in 3rd position, as Lewis Hamilton has run him down right at the end of this race, but Hamilton just doesn't have quite enough. He'll come up a few car lengths short of a podium. 5th for Russell, and we cross the line to bring it home again in P6 for I think the 3rd time this season, but we'll take it. A pretty content night here. Mistake right at the end hurt our chances of passing Russell, because I do think we could have gotten him, but Leclerc will win driver of the day here tonight under the lights.
And it's the checkered flag for your Grand Prix race winner, Oscar Piastri.
A performance worthy of an Oscar, they would say sometimes in this game, as you see Piastri celebrate. It's a McLaren front row lockout in qualifying, and they take up the first 2 positions in the race. McLaren brought an upgrade package, as you guys saw this weekend, so it's not really a surprise that when the best team also brings an upgrade that they would finish 1-2. I mean, it was looking like for a while that Norris might have even only finished 3rd or 4th, but of course he was able to rally into the 2nd position, and he will hold on to his championship lead here, as you see Leclerc and Hamilton. So it's McLaren 1-2, Ferrari 3, 4, Mercedes, Conesport, Red Bull, Williams, Haas with Behrman, and Audi with Bortoleto scores a point. How about that? And Verstappen drops all the way down to 12th position by the time the race is over. Verstappen just did not have a good night here. I think he's ready to move on to Miami and try to turn things around, as Norris has a 20-point gap over Leclerc, 21 over Hamilton, just 23 over Piastri, and 28 over Verstappen, and myself and George Russell tied at 51 back for the 6th position. On the constructors' side of things, it's close between McLaren and Ferrari, just 18 points separate them, and then it's a pretty big gap for the rest of the teams back as we continue in P5, as I hope we can fight for, Red Bull for this constructors this season. That's going to do it for me. Next episode, we have a Miami sprint weekend. Oh, is that going to be so much fun. I'll see you guys then. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.